up, Mets fans? Welcome back to another Mets Roundtable podcast with the whole crew here on the podcast. But first, before we get to our Mets talk, I want to give a good standing, sitting ovation to the New York Knicks for basically giving a great season, excellent playoffs. Unfortunately, injuries caught up to them, and they lost Game 7 at the Garden. That sucked. And I'm going to throw it over to Chris in just a second. But I want to give a big shout out to Hart and DiVincenzo for playing their asses off today after Brunson. I mean, the whole game, but when Brunson went out, I mean, they tried, man. But Chris, you could say what you need to say about that, man.
No, shout out to the New York Knicks for a great season. I know this isn't where we kind of wanted them to leave off after last year as well, the second round. Shout out to everyone that tuned into the True Knicks Talk postgame show on my channel as well. A little bit somber, but we kept it a buck. We kept about talking about the offseason and what to expect, etc. So great season. Shout out Dante. Expecting big things from him in year 2 in the Knicks uniform. Shout out to Jalen Brunson, obviously going down and getting hurt. It's very hard to come back and have a playoff series win, right? They did in the first round somehow, some way, and they fought their asses off against the Pacers, and they just didn't have enough gas left in the tank, and that's what happens when injuries take a toll. So shout out to the New York Knicks. Obviously, we got the Rangers coming up this week as well. Blue Shirts Banner post game show is going down on the channel, but we are full throttle Mets talk tonight, ladies and gentlemen. So I can't wait for the discussion.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And again, guys, shout out to the Knicks one more time. But we do got the Rangers, and the Garden still be going crazy for the New York Rangers, so that's a good sign going forward. But let's talk about our New York Mets. And I think there's some feedback coming back on you, buddy. I apologize.
Let me see.
Yep. All right, that sounds. I think we're good.
That's good.
Yeah, we're better. All right, guys. So Mets salvaged the series against the Miami Marlins 7-3 today. It was looking a little fishy. The Marlins were creeping back into the ball game, getting closer and closer, and then Brandon Nimmo with the big 2-run homer give a little bit of insurance for the New York Mets. And Garrett Reed once again just performed absolutely great. 2 innings tonight to hold down the lead and the game with the whole Diaz situation that we'll get into in a little bit. But Chris, I'm going to start with you. When it comes to the Mets, we got the victory. That's nice. We're 4 games under 500. We needed that win. We're off to Cleveland, but what are your thoughts about today? Because listen, the Mets scored 16 runs in the last 2 games with this new revamped lineup. So what do you think about this game and that lineup?
I love this lineup, man. I think Hector and myself were the ones all off season just chanting for this lineup, man. I released an episode 5 days ago, 6 days ago, or whatever it was, on my channel talking about Brandon Nimmo needs to be down in the order, the middle of the lineup, and Francisco Lindor needs to bat leadoff. And we talked about it in the very somber post game yesterday after they blew that lead, that the lineup did produce. They put up 9 runs, and that's not what lost the Mets the ball game. And you see today as well, Francisco Lindor went 2 for 4. Honestly, I caught this game very sporadically. I was out and about before the Knicks game today, so I just got a little bit of bits and pieces of it. But you see Francisco Lindor has the capability of producing in the leadoff spot, just like he did in Cleveland. You see Brandon Nimmo with the home run. Someone said in the chat here, B. Stearns. Nimmo saves the day yet again. This lineup is more efficient and more productive when those 2 guys are swapped, because guess what? The simple fact of the matter is Brandon Nimmo knows how to hit with runners in scoring position, and Francisco Lindor seems to be more comfortable in terms of being that table setter to get just on base for the rest of the lineup. And that's what it's come down to. And a lot of people have been very hesitant to make this move. But you know what? I've been a big proponent for it, even going back into the offseason. And now we're really starting to reap the benefits of it in terms of the offense. Now, the pitching and the offense really just have to click at the same pace here if we want to string some more wins together. But it was a beautiful sort of just I guess, synopsis. It was a beautiful picture to watch here. Like, what else do you want with a lineup that was struggling, an offense that was struggling, finding any sort of electricity to it? You make the change. It's a subtle change, but they made the change with Pete in the 2-hole as well, who's been absolutely raking in that 2-hole for my observation as well. He's been putting very good at-bats together. And if you just notice and look at Francisco Lindor, even when he took the offer in yesterday's game, especially his first two at bats, he's working those counts as well. So you're really not missing out, in my humble opinion, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. You're not really missing out that sort of prototypical work the count leadoff guy. Now, does that going to translate to a bunch of different walks for Francisco Lindor like it did with Brandon Nimmo at the top of the lineup? That is yet to be seen. But nonetheless, Rob, this is beautiful to see. I mean, any Mets fan that has looked at this lineup and looked at the offensive production the last 2 days versus what it's been at weeks prior to that, you can't complain. So great win. I like Sean Manaea. Great start as well from him. I believe he went 5 innings. He had a strong start. Reed Garrett out of the bullpen. I believe he appeared today, like I said.
Yep.
Struggled a little bit as well. I believe that's back-to-back days from Reed Garrett talking about getting him some time to sort of rest out of that bullpen. But man, like, I know that this might be a little bit more of a negative stream, so I'm trying to come in with the positivity here early. I understand that. You gotta listen. So everybody in the chat, I'm starting here with the positivity, and then Hayden and Hector and Rob, whatever you guys want to do, you can do. But yeah, man, it's baby steps. And right now, the first baby step that I saw was this lineup together. It was great that Mendoza actually pulled the trigger on it, and we're seeing some benefits of it. So just keep it going.
Yeah, absolutely. And listen, I got my chamomile tea. I'm calm tonight, guys. I promise you that. So no problem there. But you're absolutely right. The Francisco Lindor situation, putting him to lead off, and I talked about in the post game today, where Lindor had a couple of good at bats and a couple of hits today as well. Even when he had an offer yesterday, he was taking 7, 8 pitches per at bat, and that's something you don't see Lindor do. He's swinging at the first 2 or 3 pitches, and he's ready to start swinging. So that's a good sign. I think it's only going to help Lindor taking more pitches, not only for himself but for the lineup to see more pitches from the pitcher when they're with their first time up. And yeah, look, Nimmo leads the team in RBIs, so putting him third absolutely makes sense because that's the biggest run producer, one of the biggest run producers on the team. And look, it's about time. Nimmo's not a leadoff hitter anymore. As much as I couldn't stand him in the leadoff spot, he's not a leadoff hitter. And you know what? He might fit perfectly now in this line. We talked about it. This lineup, somewhere it needs to fit. And I think that's important. So we're going to go to Hayden right now. And with his flashback of the Expo hat right there, as I knew he was going to do that. So Hayden, look, it's a win. Still 4 games under 500. Me and Chris talked about the wild card. We're not that far away. But what are your thoughts right now with the lineup change and how it looks over the last 2 games and today, and just the overall opinion about this team right now?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to the lineup change, it was something that was direly needed. And the few times I could congratulate this organization, I'll congratulate it for this. We saw last year, whenever there was a mistake, the team just kept running through the motions, and they made no change. The only positive thing I will say about this front office and organization is that if you're not going to perform, bye-bye Joey Wendell, bye-bye Adrian Hauser, bullpen, lineup's not hitting, okay, we're moving everyone around. So I'll give the organization that. I like the lineup change. I agree with everyone. I think Nimmo is unfortunately no longer a leadoff hitter. He's swinging the bat more. He's not taking as many walks. He still has great play discipline, but he is swinging more. He's chasing more. Average is going down. On base percentage is going down, but the slugging and OPS, power numbers are going to go up, and that's fine. It's just I think Nimmo would do better in the 3-hole. And I think today in baseball, and statistically and analytically, your RBI producers and guys that hit well in scoring position bat second and third. And if Lindor could play better, like we said, his Cleveland times, which we haven't seen, then so be it in the first spot. Let it be then. I really do like the 1, 2, 3, 4 combination. It's not horrible seeing, a Lindor, Alonso, Nimmo, whatever. That's fine. Marte, obviously, he hasn't really been getting on base at an elite level, in my opinion. So lead off or number 2 isn't really necessary for him that I feel. So I really am proud that this team made the changes. And, after you get shut out by the worst team in baseball, 7-0. You know, we need some accountability, and the Mets actually, you know, pulled up their big boy pants and did that. So kudos to them. I congratulate them on the few things of that. First 2 games was a disaster. Thank Lord I didn't go down to Miami. You know, I'm so happy I didn't. Would have wasted my money. You know, better things to do. But you know, otherwise, yeah. I mean, a win's a win. Congratulations, they won 1 of 3 from the worst team in baseball. I mean, that's disappointing. I mean, I'm disappointed to quote someone. But oh well. I mean, let us have our fun, I guess. I mean, you know, we'll get swept by Cleveland, but that's something to say later.
Yeah,
But
it's not gonna be
yeah,
pretty.
I mean, good win. Whatever series Diaz will talk about later. Reed Garrett, he's been great. Uh, I forgot the Mets had him last year. It really goes to show you how dominant he's been. I was looking at his baseball savant. He has a big arsenal of pitches.
Yeah.
He has at least 7 pitches that he's thrown, 6 pitches that he's thrown more than 20 times. So I think that's pretty interesting. And for relievers, that's very unheard of.
Yeah.
So you know, you kind of look at like a Seth Lugo, right? They have a lot of pitches in their mix that they could use. So I like that. So Reed Garrett definitely has been a bright spot, but yeah, oh well.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, look, we know this is going to be somewhat of a negative stream tonight, as we have just under 200 in the stream right now, on my channel on X as well. So make sure you hit on that like button if you're watching us on X right now. Make sure you go to the YouTube channels on Chris's and Hayden's and mine. Subscribe to the channels. Hector, he's too cool for a YouTube channel, so he stays on X. So you know, so you got to follow him there. And you know, I don't even know if Hector wants to talk today. You know, he don't talk very much, so we might skip him. But so heck, let's talk about our Mets. All right, I know you at Brooklyn today in the Cyclones or yesterday? I saw.
I know.
Oh, okay.
First of all, what's up, everybody, man? And shout out to my peoples in the chat. Because, like Rob said, I don't have a YouTube. Whatever. Don't haven't connected to YouTube here. I can't type in, but shout out to all of you. I see the shout outs. Shout out to my guy Junior, Darren, all you guys, man. As far as the Brooklyn, I you know, everybody pretty much knows I do Uber, so I caught a ride this morning that took me all the way out there, and I'm staring right at it, and I'm like, how about this? This is where I should be coming instead of going to watch this major league team, and we'll be talking about some guys that actually got promoted from the minors today later on. But no, man, and listen, let me echo you guys on shouting out the Knicks and Dante today, and you know, just the whole team, man. Listen, it ended bad, and it ended with an injury or whatever the case, but they gave us a great season. I wish it could have gone on a little bit longer because it'll probably help us deal with what's going on with our baseball season. But shout out to those guys, man, and hopefully we can bring most back with some additions to make them better and keep it going. As far as these Mets, man, like, what are you gonna say, man? I got the shirt on, right? Because like you guys said, I don't even have this connected anymore. Like you guys said, it's probably going to turn into a negative stream or whatever, but not that it's going to be a negative stream, but it's the reality, right? And it's not really too much positive to speak on. But what's the motto, right? You got to believe. And I tell people all the time, you come in here, you talk about stuff after a game, or at least I do my post after the game. It's going to depend on how the game went, whether it's going to be negative, positive, whatever the case may be. And for whatever reason, people get upset or offended when you, I guess, sound a little bit negative or a little critical, but hey, that's what's going on, and it's not pretty. But like I say, whenever there's a game, whenever the game starts, I'm there rooting and hoping for a win. You know, as far as you guys touch on the lineup, like Chris said, man, I was excited, and I was excited more about Brandon Nimmo being moved down into the 3-hole, 4-hole, whatever the heck it was, but just move him down. To me, this is what he had turned into. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I was tired of hearing about Brandon Nimmo shouldn't be leadoff. He's not a leadoff no more. He doesn't walk anymore. He doesn't steal bases. He doesn't do this. And like, why are we focusing on stuff that he can't do instead of realizing what he can do and appreciating what he can do, which is real good? And maybe he's being put in a bad spot. So shout out to Mendoza for finally doing it. And shout out to those guys actually for being, I guess, receptive to it. Although I'm old school, all this I talk to the guys and like I would have talked to the guys to let them know, like, yo, this is what I'm doing. I'm not asking you shit. You're gonna hit first, you're gonna hit third, and get your shit together. But yeah, man. Who was it? CP Chris said lost to the worst team in baseball. Are they the worst team in baseball, or are we the worst team in baseball? People want to tell me about your expectations, and my man Carlos is famous for this. He's in here. He giving me a hard time all the time. Expectations and all of this. I understand that, and I understand what the front office did. You know what I'm saying? But they also told us as recently as this week, we expect to make the playoffs. We plan on being competitive. We plan on doing this and this and that. And besides that, I'm going to say this till I'm blue in the face. Maybe I'm already blue in the face. As long as you have the players that we have on this team, we should be able to win damn ball games.
I agree.
We should be able to win ball games.
I agree.
A lot more than when we're winning. And the reason why we're not is because the guys that we want to love and that we love keep letting us down. And instead of going at them or talking about them, we want to go at each other. We want to kill each other as Met fans. What goes on X with Met fans sometimes is disgusting. And it happens with the Knicks. I guess that's just part of being a New York fan. We just, instead of focusing on the team, we rather go at each other. And I'm not talking about for me. I just, because you see it all the time. People, you're an idiot for thinking this. If you think this, you're an idiot. No. Think whatever the hell you want. The team is making us feel and think what we're thinking right now. And it's not good. I'm sorry. But you got to believe. A lot of baseball left. We'll see what happens. But those are my thoughts right now. Just overall, pretty much disgusted with this team. Honestly, disgusted. And I'll end with this, right? I can't, again, because if the front office came and said, yo, this offseason said, listen, we don't believe in this team, and got rid of some guys and said, we're trying to focus on the young guys, and then that's a different story. But again, you came with these guys, you touched on the edges or whatever. Maybe they wanted to make these guys fail and expose them. Or maybe they believe in these guys. If you just wanted to expose them, stop lying to me. Stop telling me you believe in these guys. Stop telling me you're going to make the playoffs. Right? Because that's what they keep telling us.
Yeah. Well, you know what, Heck? Look.
I agree with that.
I feel like the fact that they're making these drastic changes in a lineup tells you that they're going to try to make the playoffs, regardless if it's the third wild card, second wild card, or people think it's LOL Mets that are not going to make the playoffs. The fact of the matter is that they're trying everything they can with the roster they have and guys from the minors as well to get to 500. Because again, I just talked about this in the post game, right? The third wildcard team is one game under 500, and that's the San Diego Padres at 23-24. The Mets are a game and a half out of the wildcard. I know that's only 46 games into the season, but it matters because it shows you how mediocre the National League team is. And all you really need in this National League to make the playoffs is one very hot month, and you're probably going to be in the race for the rest of the season. That's just a fact. The only problem is that when the Phillies did it late in the year and when the Diamondbacks did it late in the year, over the last two seasons, they had late August into September to make that run. The problem with the Mets is that they got 45 games up until the trade deadline to make something happen, to make the front office believe or give them no option but to be buyers at the deadline and be within a game, two, maybe 3 games of a wild card spot. That's what they have to do, because game 112, 140 can be very fucking irrelevant if they don't do what they need to do over these next 45 games before the trade deadline. I think it's game 92 of the season when the trade deadline is that day. So they got about 45 games to go until that moment. So they already finished the first quarter of 4 quarters. They're in the second quarter right now. This is the time where Lindor, Alonso, McNeil, Nimmo, the core guys that everybody wants, everybody loves, everybody stops with a lot of the criticism, and what they have to do is do their job. They got to play to the back of their baseball cards, because these next 45 games is going to tell us a lot about this team, and it's going to give answers to a front office of David Stearns that has no connection to these players. And he would not be afraid to move any of these guys if it benefits the team going forward. It's just a fact. So for Alonso, McNeil, Lindor, Alonso, the big boys, the core of the team, you have the opportunity to change minds of Met fans and the front office and give them no option but to buy at the deadline. That's all they have to do. And that's the way it has to go. And I love what Hayden said when he talked about when things aren't going right, there's been changes. If it was a pitcher in the bullpen not doing his job, gone. Joey Wendell hasn't been playing well. That's Stearns' guy. He brought him in. Gone. Right? The lineup has been lackluster offensively. What did they do? They changed the lineup drastically.
No nonsense.
Yeah, fans
and that's the good thing. And then, that's somewhat of the decent thing about Stearns is that he's not afraid. He's not upset. He's not concerned about hurting someone's feelings. No. That's the Met. He needs to do what is going to be the best for the organization. Yeah. I mean, this spring training, Stearns literally said, and go on SNY, go on YouTube, go on Twitter, when do you think this will be a competitive team? It starts today. Does this look like a competitive team to you? So,
well, they should be better. And that's the other problem when we talk about the core. They should be better, right? There's a lot of games where we lost where it was mostly the offense because the pitching as a whole has been good. So, I like the fact that the front office is making changes when things aren't going right because that shows you they're trying with the roster they have. They can't do anything else except bring guys up for the minors and make lineup changes and maybe rotation changes, bullpen switches. Look what they're doing. They're moving Diaz out of the ninth spot, as we'll talk about in just a second, to put somebody else in it. Maybe it is Reed Garrett as a closer for a little bit to get Diaz back mentally because it's mostly mental at this point as he broke down apparently after his interview after the game yesterday. So, Chris, I'm going to come to you, and we're going to talk about Diaz here. We talked about it in the post game when he blew the game, and he blew that 4-run lead. Listen, I like that some people are saying that it's too early to take him out of that role. No, it's not. Because if you're going to talk about too early, and you got 45 games to work with here until the trade deadline, it's not too early at all. You have to make a change. And if that's pitching him in the 6th inning, 7th inning, or just giving him a mental break for a week, you got to change it up. And it seemed like they're doing that. So what do you think about the Diaz situation? And how do you feel about maybe Reed Garrett being that guy in the ninth inning closing games for a little while?
First, I want to say that I'm going to say something that no Mets fan wants to hear right now, but it's absolutely true. And we saw it earlier on this season. And that our judgment of this team, as down as it is right now, all it takes is a mimicking of a run that they put together, that 12-3 run earlier this season, for us to just be back on here in a future roundtable and say, listen, let's go get a playoff spot. Let's go get a wild card spot. It takes one run. That's all I'm saying. Now, enough of that. Because I think people forget about that. I think people forget that this is a 162 game season. I know that we're evaluating it based off of the first half, Rob, but there's still plenty of time within this first half. So I'm just going to say that. Now, Edwin Diaz absolutely should be yanked from that closer role because, like you said, there is definitely some sort of mechanical problem, if I had to guess. He says that there isn't. And I haven't really watched the tape enough for me to just sit there and just like analyze what the issue is with him mechanically. But something's wrong mechanically. I don't know what it is. Don't care. What's the bigger concern to me is what you just said. And I didn't even know when we did that post game yesterday. I had no idea that he had went out there. I didn't know what he said. I just know that he looked deflated. I just didn't know what he said. And I damn sure didn't know that he started crying, which is nothing wrong. Listen, the guy had a tough break in the World Baseball Classic. He didn't pitch the full year. He loves this team. He loves this organization clearly. And he just loves playing baseball. So that's no shame in that. But when you go out there and you start to lose confidence after 1, 2, 3 bad outings, and as a closer where you're really only out there for one inning to show what you got and lock the ball game down, when that starts accumulating, you're not going to have many other chances to sort of rebound. And the team's not going to give you, and the fan base is not going to give you that many more chances to rebound than, let's just say, a starting pitcher, right? He doesn't have that luxury, unfortunately. And not only that is that he doesn't have that luxury on top of what his name is. It's Edwin Diaz. It's the guy who shut everybody down in 2022. It's the guy that got the contract based off of, let's just call it for what it is, one good season in the Mets uniform. So, yeah, it's not too early to yank Edwin Diaz. Now, if it was me personally, and I know this is probably not feasible, and I saw someone say this on X earlier today, I just send him down to the minor leagues, get him right. Because I don't know what role he's gonna have in these ball games because the Mets are not blowing anybody out. I'm not sure if anyone's watching these games. If they're up when Edwin Diaz comes in, they're sure as hell not blowing anybody out. He had a 4-run lead, and that was as much cushion as he's gonna get. And we talked about like different leverage situations for him. Well, what lower leverage situations are there, Rob? In that same game that he blew the 9-5 lead, when Reed Garrett came in, it was a 7-5 game. You're telling me that if he can't lock down a 9-5 game in the last inning, he's going to be able to lock down a 7-5 game just a couple innings before that? That's where it doesn't matter to me where you're pitching. That doesn't matter that he's appearing in the ninth inning. It just matters what the situation is, which is why you saw the Mets put him in the eighth inning over a Mr. Adam Ottavino at the top of the order just in 2022. So it doesn't really matter where you're pitching. It doesn't matter if it's ninth inning, eighth inning, sixth inning. You could be out there for long relief in the third inning. As long as it's a close ball game, that's a high leverage situation. You're expected to keep your team in the ball game. Do we have confidence in Edwin Diaz to do that right now? Now, some may say it's a little foolish for us to say this after however many outings we've seen after Edwin Diaz. And this is not really me trying to blame Edwin Diaz. For me, it's just that he doesn't look right. And I really wish that at the beginning of the season, knowing that he really didn't have, like someone said in our post game yesterday, he didn't really have a ramped up spring training. Then why couldn't we mimic what JD Martinez did? And I'm going to say what I did in the last post game is that, and I know it's not feasible, Hector, trust me, because if they did that, a lot of fans would be pissed. But if you knew, and I'm not saying the Mets organization knew that he was hurt or still lingering and going through those effects of the injury, but it could have helped him. And we could just have forewent this whole conversation right now. Anyways, hindsight's always 2020. The Mets did the right thing to pull him from the closing duties. Give it to Reed Garrett. I don't know. Give it to Adam Ottavino. I'd honestly rather Reed Garrett right now because that splitter is nasty. And I think he's proven to us that he is capable. And by the way, he's going to be around here for a long time. I believe he has 4, maybe 5 years of control left at 30 years old. Reed Garrett does. So he's going to be a familiar face. He's not going anywhere at the trade deadline. I can promise you that with that amount of control he has in his contract. So give it to Reed Garrett. Maybe you strike lightning in the bottle and you have another closer 2.0 situation. I don't know. But yeah, something's got to give because if this Mets team is expected to be competitive, it starts with Edwin Diaz, man. And what we've been seeing just can't happen. So it's absolutely the right decision. Sorry, that was a roundabout way of saying it, but I had to let loose there for a second.
I think we got to be fair, though, man. I think it was, like you hinted at it. They didn't think that he had any issues. You know what I'm saying? Now, you said someone mentioned in your post game. I think one of my friends, or maybe it was somebody here on X, also that said, and I didn't think about it much, but the way he didn't work as much during spring training. Maybe he should have went a little bit harder during spring training. Maybe he should have pitched in a few more games and stuff like that, Excuse me. And maybe if he did that, it would have shown what we started to see early on, man. Credit to some people. I guess I was trying to ignore it. Who early on from when he was coming on, his appearance was saying, listen, the velocity's not there. The slider doesn't look the same. This doesn't look the same. And I was like, no, listen, relax. He's a little rusty. He's just coming back and all of that. Now, as far as coming in yesterday, let's be for real here. And shout out to my guy Stoney. Stoney, you made it, my dude. Glad to see you made it. He was in that game yesterday because he had kind of been struggling, right? And they wanted to get him work. That's not a game that Edwin Diaz should have been in. I was feeling a little sick yesterday, and I'm watching it, and I actually fell asleep after the first batter. But as he's warming up and stuff, and we start scoring the runs, I'm like, okay, I'm not sure I want him coming into this game. And I was going to post it, and I didn't get to posting it. But at the same time, I'm like, you know what? He needs to work. So I understand why they're doing it. But Guys, I'm a Met fan, so I think with pessimism, right? And I know Edwin Diaz in non-save situations historically for the Mets, no bueno. He's been no bueno. So I don't like seeing him there. So that's what I think about right away. That's what I felt when I saw him yesterday. It's the same thing when I go on about the black jerseys and now the city connects. I know the jerseys ain't playing, but when I see them, the feeling I get in my gut, no bueno. It makes me feel uneasy. You know what I'm saying? And that's how I felt yesterday when Gary Cohen is going on about him the first time he's gonna pitch, and I'm like, shut up, shut up. I don't want to think about that stuff. But I think they're doing the right thing right now. Maybe backing him up a little bit. I'm not, like I said, I'm not sure just demoting him even to start the season and saying you're not the closer or anything like that was the right thing to do. I mean, listen, just the emotional, I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but like the emotional lift that him being back gave the team was something, to hold on to. Now, obviously, performance-wise, it's just like I was going to say earlier, I was thinking in my head, like, for the most part, except for like today, and I knew there would score runs today because we didn't like the lineup really, right? You're like, why is this gonna? And when you don't really like the lineup, that's the lineup that scores. But when you look at the lineup, and I'm not a paper guy, but you look at the lineup now, and it doesn't look too bad. But you got to do it on the field. So it's the same thing with Diaz, and it is, to hear the report from Gelbs that he sat there and broke down yesterday after his post-game press conference, like. There's guys that, and he's probably not in here, but shout out to my guy Six who did a space yesterday, and I was in there listening. And, Six is big on this kind of stuff, and he was talking about, these players don't care. They just play for the money and da-da-da-da. And I couldn't really talk, so I didn't come up. But I don't really believe that. And listen, are there some guys that just play for the money? Absolutely. You hear guys, and it's not in baseball, in all sports. And you hear guys talk about it all the time. Like, yeah, I don't even like playing this that much, but I get paid whatever. I have the skills, so I play it. But that's not everybody. A lot of these guys do care. And I think Edwin Diaz has showed us that he does care. Now, does it suck that he's right out telling us, yeah, I'm struggling with my confidence right now. I have no confidence. You know what? That's another thing I don't understand. We ask for these guys to be honest with us, we want to hear them speak. And then whenever they say something we don't like, it's like, oh, shut up. Why are you saying that? Nah, I want to know. Okay, so you're struggling with your confidence. Now let's take care of that. And shout out to Sharif Foley, who I heard was one of the guys that was, there trying to pop him up, letting them know that, like, yo, dude, you him. You just got to find it again. But you will. You know what I'm saying? And Lindor, I'm not going to leave him out. Shout out to Lindor. Okay? I'm going to have my own. I might introduce a new segment today. Last week, with my pushing, we introduced the positivity segment. I might introduce, I don't even know what to call it, but I know what to call it. My ammunition. I'll come up with a name of it, but it's gonna be ammunition for those that say that I hate Lindor. I'm gonna give you some later on today, just because I have a little bone to pick with Lindor on something that I think we'll leave it there. Just remind me, but I don't think you're gonna have to remind me.
Hey, listen,
Marlins is gonna love this.
I want to talk about something that Hector said, because a lot of Mets fans said the same thing that you said, Hector, at first when Diaz was kind of warming up and getting into that game with the 4-run lead, that he shouldn't be out there. But I am actually taking the complete opposite stance. Like, he should be out there. If we're talking about spring training or lack thereof, that's a perfect time to get him some work, like you just said. So why not do it? Like, you should be able to rely on him in that situation, getting some work in and closing out the ball game, getting 3 outs with a 4-run lead. Like, why not? I just don't buy into that, because I saw plenty of Mets fans on X saying, why is Diaz even in the ball game to begin with in that situation? And normally, under normal circumstances, I agree. Probably not the situation. Although 4 runs, like in today's MLB, teams score that in a hurry sometimes, right? But nonetheless, you need work. He needed work, and that's what they try to give him. And so that's not really an excuse for me. There's no way.
And you know what, Chris? You're right. Listen, not only did he need the work, but the way the team was playing, how many times in a situation like that, you'll see a manager go to his closer and the commentator will say, or then he'll say after the game, like, listen, I don't care if it was a safe situation or not. We needed that game, and I wasn't playing no games. So I threw my best guy out there to make sure that we locked it down. You know what I'm saying? So it could have been looking at it that way yesterday. But obviously, I think with everything that was going on, maybe there was a little bit of that. But I think mostly it was, let's get him some work. He's struggling. You know, he may be a little rusty or whatever. I want to think it's rust, but like I mean, the loss in velocity kind of does worry me. Does he not have enough push because of the surgery or for his leg? I don't know. I don't want to get into that kind of stuff because I'm not smart enough for that. But shout out to my guy Junior, because I said the same thing earlier today, man, to somebody. Like I'm saying all the time, it sucks that it hurts us more when these guys lose than it does them. Now I understand they're the players. You got to move on. It's a 162 game season. You can't let it carry on to the next day. I'm sorry, guys. I'm gonna be straight up because it's blunt thoughts. I don't bullshit. If you just saw me spit some rice, that's why I keep freaking muting myself and all this stuff because I'm starving and I didn't have time to have my dinner. So I got dinner here and it's smacking me in the face. So I had to get a couple of bites. But yeah, man. It sucks that it hurts us more. So at least it appears like it does than it does these guys, man. It really does.
Well, you know what? It's when it comes to that about caring or not caring, or it hurts us more. Yeah, because we're you to be a fan of teams, many teams, or just teams in general. Anybody, even if it's one team, you gotta be outright fucking crazy because we consistently listen. If there's a boyfriend or a girlfriend you're with and they constantly doing the wrong thing and constantly not doing what you want them to do, and they do bad things to you and they cheat on you and all that other stuff, the Mets organization.
You leave the relationship, Rob. Say it. You leave that relationship.
They can treat you like shit. Steve Cohen can come tomorrow and says, "I hate all you motherfucking Met fans," and we still go to games and watch it on SNY because we're fucking delusional. And that's okay because that's what we do. And I love it. And if I'm delusional and all of us on this roundtable are fucking idiots, we're fucking idiots because we're insane to watch it, right? Chris had to go through watching game 7. I watched his post game. I felt bad for Chris today. Like I was watching the game and I'm like, oh, Chris is gonna go fucking nuts on his post game. Like we're fucking delusional, right? But that's why they're professionals though, because as much as we are talking about it the next day, they have to move on the next day because if they take that to their next at bat or their next game, that's when there's going to be real problems. That's why they're professionals. That's why they're the best players in the world, because of the fact that they can come back the next day and totally forget about the day before, right? If they worried about yesterday coming into today's game, there would be no chance. That's why professionals are professionals and fans are fans, because we get to talk about it on Sports Talk Radio the next day, or YouTube, or X, or on a space, or wherever. That's the difference. And there is some players that care and don't care, but that's for another day. Like that's something that is never going to change. There's always players that care more than other players. That's a fact. But fans are delusional. We are fucking nuts. Right, we come back no matter how much torture and pain they give us. We are back there day after day after day, year after year after year, month after month after month. It's just that simple. All right.
I say it all the time, Rob. Fandom is the abusive relationship you don't get out of, especially as a Met fan. Any relationship you have issues, all the issues you mentioned before, what do? Listen, it's been great, or it's not been great, but it's time to move on. Let's go our separate ways. Now, with these guys, like you said, they could come and insult us. They might be insulting us right now with the nonsense they're telling us about competing in playoffs, while really behind closed doors, they have no intention of doing any such things. They have plans on cleaning house, maybe. You know what I'm saying?
Hey,
and we're still here. We're still here. And we'll be here tomorrow and the day after and next year, Lord willing, and the year after and after that.
Yeah. All right. So Hayden, I want to get your opinion about Diaz though, because look, we did a lot on the Shea Bridge in 2022, a lot of live streams together as well in 2022 when he was just dominant. What do you see? Because I know you're very analytical and you look at all the metrics. What do you see, or what have you learned from his analytics side of things and the stats the statistic to show, like, what do you think is wrong with him, in your opinion?
I think it's a combination of, honestly, everything is wrong with Edwin Diaz. I mean, if you want to blame the pitch clock, this is the first year he's pitching with a pitch clock. You could blame the pitch clock. If you want to blame the injury from the WBC, I think that's more than fair to blame. If you want to blame that he was out of baseball for a year and didn't really pitch, that's fair to blame. Analytically and statistically, it's no secret he's different. I mean, if you look at everything from the velocity to the movement to the spin rate to RPMs, everything is drastically different. Everyone's saying the slider's flat, and that's 100% true. I mean, he's not really mixing up his pitches as much. I mean, he's throwing the slider, 10, 12 times in a row. Yeah, no shit, they're going to take you deep the 12th time. So, analytically, very different. Even physically, if you were to pull up a 2022 to 2024 picture video of Diaz, just with the leg kick to pushing himself off the rubber, he looks a little different from the naked eye. I will be honest, and you compare that to 21, 20, and 2019, he looks a little different.
So do you think it's the push off leg, the injured leg, that you think is not giving the drive that he needs?
I think it definitely is. I mean, it takes what, a year or two to fully get healed. You know, and then when it comes to Diaz, it sucks. You know, I get it. He's a guy who brings a lot of hype to this team. You know, we saw in 2022, Narco, everyone, you know, it was good for the morale. And then as soon as last year he went down in the WBC, and then it just seems like everything took down. And, you know, he came back. He didn't pitch a whole lot in spring training this year, which I was a little alarmed, I'll be honest. And then he looked decent in April. And then just, you know, the last couple starts, he's been horrible. I mean, you ask me, and Chris said it, I think he should get sent down. You know, it sucks. I mean, being a former NL reliever of the year, all-star, great reliever, but at the end of the day, if he really cares about what's best, you know, he should be happy for it then. I mean, right now, he is not your closer. If I am Carlos Mendoza or anyone in the Mets office, he is not your closer. He lost that role until he has proven that he can get his confidence back, or he can get his ability to perform back. I would have no problem sending him down to AAA. Maybe he needs the reps. Like we said, he didn't get a lot in spring training. So maybe he just needs to get used to pushing off the rubber, facing batters at a lower, less situation. I mean, he comes into games and he keeps blowing them. 4 runs. I mean, that's a cushion right there, like Chris said. That is a cushion. How much more protection and more help do you need? And it sucks to see that he broke down. You know, it really does. He's a guy who really cares a lot. You know, like we said, he's not in it for the money. He really cares. He really wants to do well. And I mean, he was a big reason to the Mets' success in 2022. And, you know, people that are going out there and saying, oh, we'll give him time. No. Because in 2019, we could have said the same thing. 86 wins, Diaz blew 9. That's what? About 9. Maybe he would have blown a couple, but Mets could have easily got 90, 91, 92 wins if Diaz didn't blow all of them in 2019. So I'm not going to give him any more time. His time was in spring training. His time was for the last 2 weeks. I say send him down for a little bit. You know, if you want to give him a mental break and send him down, let him have, you know, a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks in AAA. I wouldn't be against that. In terms of right now, I wouldn't be against a closer by committee. If you want to make that Reed Garrett, that's fine. If you want to make it a Jorge Lopez, that's fine. You know, I think Mendoza has not really been too alarming with the bullpen management and usage this year. So I wouldn't be against a closer by committee, but overall, Diaz is not your closer anymore.
If I may, and that's a great point by Hayden too, and I'm going to go back to this point that I made, is that if you don't send Edwin Diaz down, really by virtue of how the Mets have been playing these tight ball games, the only lower leverage situations you're going to have to get Edwin Diaz in the ball game with no pressure to get that work in is if the Mets are just getting whopped, like if they're just like getting just smacked across the head in a game. Like we're not going to find, and that's still not really happening in this season. The Mets are losing close ball games more than they're losing laughers, right? Maybe outside of the 8-0 loss in the opening game of the Miami series. So, like, that's why you can go send him down to try to emulate those high leverage situations without the risk of losing professional ball games. And that's why I'm an advocate for it, because if you just leave it up to him not being the closer, he's still going to be appearing in high leverage situations no matter what inning you throw him in. And that's the key emphasis for me.
Yeah, and you know what? They talk so much about that pitching lab. Maybe they just got to bring him down and bring him in that pitching lab and just see if maybe the strength of the knee is just not giving him that push off, or it's just mechanical, or it's just his arm angle, or just whatever it might be. Right? The pitching lab has already helped a lot of these pitchers that they all talked about over the spring training and into the year. That's all. A lot of their interviews after the game or prior to a game, they've been talking about that. And David Stearns and Cohen has brought that up a lot as well. Like, maybe you just got to throw them in the pitching lab and just see what's wrong, right? They can do a side-by-side of 2022 and now 2024 Diaz and just, compare and contrast. Because, look, this team is not going anywhere without Edwin Diaz. We all understand that. So you got to get him right as soon as possible. And, with the stretch of games over the next 45 before the trade deadline, you got to hurry it up. You got to figure it out quickly, because you can run into a situation where you're out of it by the end of the, middle of June. And now we're talking about who we're selling off at the deadline. So, and speaking of selling off, before we get into the lineup a little bit, I just want to give a shout out to everybody on X and YouTube. We got over 380 people in the stream right now from X and YouTube. So shout out to you guys. If you're watching on X right now, go over to YouTube and please subscribe to the channels. And also hit that like button as well. So we appreciate everybody tuning in. It's a late night on a Sunday. It's almost 10 o'clock, and we're through a couple of topics here, and we have almost 400 in the chat. So that is awesome. And we love you guys for hanging out with us today and tonight on a Sunday night. So let's get to the lineup. And the reason why I put lineup issues is because there is, 2 games is not solving. It's nice to see, but it has to solve the issue, right? It's, they're scoring just around 4 runs per game on average. They need to be better than that, right? They need to at least get it up to 4.5, closer to 5, to give their pitchers some breathing room, because it seems like every time the Mets play a ball game, their pitchers, either a starter or a bullpen guy, has no margin for error, right? Yesterday was an anomaly for this Mets team this season, right? To have a multi-run lead is rare this season. It's been a lot of 1-run deficits, 1-run leads, and their pitchers have no room for error. And when they make a mistake, it seems like it blows up in our face, and they don't just give up 1 run, they give up multiple runs, and then we lose those games. So, Hayden, I'm going to go back to you with this. The 2 games are nice. They scored 16 runs in the 2 games. Wonderful, beautiful, great, yippee, or 15 runs or whatever it was. That's wonderful. Do you think that this lineup is going to get better? Because the supporting cast around the core has been doing their job. Do you believe in your boy Alonso? Nimmo looks like he's picking it up. McNeil, who looks like since he changed his bat, putting better swings together, better at bats, and even who am I missing? Lindor as well. So do you think this lineup can be better offensively? And do you think the core guys can start helping this supporting cast and get going offensively and maybe get to that 5 runs per game where you kind of need to be in this day and age in baseball?
I mean, it's a tough question, and honestly, the simple answer is who the heck knows? I mean, statistically and expected stats, yeah, this team is more than capable of it. Like you always say, Rob, to the back of their baseball card, if Alonso, Nimmo, Lindor, and McNeil can at least do 75%.
Yeah.
75%, I think, is a fair percentage to say, right? Then, yeah, they can score 5, 6 runs, 7 runs a game. On top of JD Martinez, on top of Harrison Bader, who's so. He has a good game, and then he has like 5 bad games. Catcher position, yeah, that's weak, and you're just praying for Francisco Alvarez to come back and also be 75%. It's interesting to see the call-up of Vientos. He's been very His approach, I like his approach. I feel it's a little bit more mature, a little bit more patient. He's not swinging at many inside pitches or pitches really low. So he looks a lot more mature since he's been back called up. So we'll see. I think Vientos is also a guy that, but Beatty needs to step up. That is one guy. But the lineup, just everyone needs to step up. Everyone needs to step up. It's as simple as that. Lindor, he had a great series in Miami. I'll give him that. But the 190 average, yeah, I need more. I'm sorry. I know I'm very negative on him. Oh, I call him Jason Bay, whatever. No, I'm sorry. I need more. I cannot be having this guy batting 190. Mendoza line, hello? It's your manager's name, so maybe in honor of him, you could do it. So we'll see. Right now, I think the first step of the problem is that they addressed it. They changed up the lineup, and I think you go from there. You go into Cleveland with hopefully the same lineup, unless everyone in the clubhouse keeps getting sick, which I don't know what the heck's going on with that. But if you go in, with a lineup like we said, Lindor batting first and is actually hitting well, bat from the right side, please. On top of that, with Alonso being 75%, Nimmo. And it's interesting you bring up Rob. I like how McNeil just changed up his bat and just stopped swinging at so many inside pitches. Then hopefully he can be a decent hitter, better than what we've been seeing. That 0 for 15 shenanigans. But overall, I don't think they get the job done. But hopefully I'm wrong. This is just a very inconsistent team. That's really all I got. I couldn't tell you if they get the job done or not. I hope they do. But you asked me right now, and I don't think they do.
Yeah, and you know what? Look, if they play to the back of their baseball cards, this lineup's going to be fine. But they can't, And Patrick just said it. Lindor with batting 330 in September. Yeah, you know what? That goes for Alonso as well. He's another one that does the same thing. And I brought this up in the post game. Like those two guys, everybody goes on about Lindor pads his stats. Again, look at August and September for Pete Alonso as well. When the Mets are out of it, he completely explodes in those months as well. Even in 2022, who was the best player on the team in August and before he got hurt? Marte in August. September, where was Pete Alonso? Where was Francisco Lindor? And where was Nimmo in 2022 in September when Marte went down? They struggled to score without Marte. And it can't be about Marte. I'm sorry. It can't be about Bader. Like somebody in the pregame brought up, why is Omar Narvaez in the game today? Well, Nito can't play every day. He's your starting catcher. You can't lose Nito because then Narvaez is your starting catcher. The fact of the matter is, if you start concerning yourselves with the 8 and 9 hitters, that means the 1 through 4 hitters aren't doing the job. So you need to complain about something else to make you feel better. But if the top of the lineup isn't doing their job, you really expect the supporting cast of characters 6 through 9 to be the difference of winning more ball games than not? No, it doesn't work like that. Look at every team around the league. If their core is playing well, guess what, guys? The team's doing well. It's just that simple. How about playing to the back of your baseball card in May and June when it really matters? Because it will matter this year. This team would be so much better if they play at least 80% of the back of their baseball card. Besides Nimmo, is anybody doing 50% of the back of their baseball cards right now? No. McNeil, no. Lindor, no. Alonso, no. Nimmo, average, okay, he's going to get his average up because he's been, putting more bat on ball lately as of late, and he's been coming up with them big hits, and he has the most RBIs on the team. So the core's got to get it going. Like the issues with the team or the lineup isn't the supporting cast. It is the core guys. And we keep on bringing it up. All of us on this roundtable, everybody, Hector brings it up on X. Chris, you talk about it in the pre and post and in-game lives. Hayden, you even talk about it in our group chats all the time. The fact of the matter is, if this core does not do their job, it's irrelevant what the other guys like Bader and Tyrone Taylor and Beatty, Vientos, Narvaez, Nito. It matters enough for the supporting cast to do what they need to do to not completely blow up a lineup. But guys, we have 21 wins, and the majority is because of the supporting cast of the lineup. The guys I just mentioned, not the core guys. That's a fucking problem. Heck, what do you think about this lineup issue? You're on mute. You're on mute, buddy.
My bad.
You're good.
I was actually looking at my guy Junior's comment before, and he said it. Like the lineup itself, not the problem. Is just like for whatever reason, it doesn't blend on most nights. It doesn't blend the way that it should. You know, they don't put hits together the way that it should. Why? I don't understand, right? Because you have players that should be better, and that's the frustrating part. And it's something that Chris said earlier when he was talking about Diaz, but I think it applies to all these guys, right? You know, I think it was you that said it, right, Chris? Diaz got his contract, a nice little contract, basically off of one season, right? And then, like, let's be honest, we hated this guy for the most part. We thought he wasn't made for New York. And in 2022, he gave us that year. We were like, okay, you know what? Maybe he figured it out. He figured it out. Not maybe, he definitely figured it out. No, you can't figure it out. You can get better. And we were hyped, whatever. But the truth is, that's been the case almost for all of these guys, man. We spend more time trying to convince ourselves that they're good, trying to convince ourselves that we have a good core and this and that, and ignore the failures that they show us for the most part. You know, you talked about the way they hit in April and May, and I was actually looking at all that stuff. I even looked at. It's funny because I've been adamant about how the supporting cast is the ones that have helped us to win most of our games. So I went in there and I was looking because you can find all kinds of stuff. So I went in Baseball Reference, and you can actually look at guys' numbers and wins and losses, right? And it shows you what they've done. And I think none bigger than Lindor's numbers. Like the difference in wins and losses and the way you can see how he affects wins so much is drastic. You know what I'm saying? And I guess that's why we criticize so much, because we know we need him so much. You know what I'm saying? We need you to perform in order for us to be able to win ball games. But yeah, man, and I said it before, man. Like on paper, when I look at the lineup yesterday, especially because Vientos was in there, and I want to see Vientos in the lineup. But when I look at the lineup and I see Lindor, Alonso, Nemo, JD Martinez, like, damn, okay. You know what I'm saying? Come on. That looks good on paper. But you got to go out there and do it. And then you follow it up with, like I said, a guy that I like in Vientos, a guy, Marte, who's been up and down, whatever. But, and it doesn't look so bad, but they got to go out there and do it, man. They got to go out there and do it.
Mm-hmm. All right, Chris. On paper. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Chris, we beat the drum on this. I mean, we beat it like a dead horse over and over again in the pre-games. Yesterday in the post-game, you brought it up multiple times with this lineup. The fit with this lineup, you were that was a great point you brought up multiple times about this lineup is not a right fit. Maybe this change is, but what are your thoughts about this lineup? Issues as a whole, not just over the last two games.
Yeah, I think really the Mets right now, I mean, in terms of the lineup, this is just maybe more positional than the overall lineup. I think they have a third base problem. They have one hitter that's clearly better than the other one, and then we have one fielder that's clearly better defensively at third base than the other. And you can't just flip-flop them and have Brett Beatty out there playing defense all the time, and then Mark Vientos coming up to bat for him. That's not how it works. So someone has to win that position. Someone has to win that position because there's only so many times you can go out there in the season and just flip-flop them and sort of platoon them. Because me, Rob, and everybody in this chat should know me by now. I hate the platoon. I miss me with that. Like, I hate it. I really do. If you're playing matchups with two young kids, I hate it. Whoever wins the job wins the job. And that's it.
Yeah.
Mark Vientos, to Hayden's point, is putting together just lovely at bats. He's been brought up here, and the way they sent him off the last go around after bringing a little bit of a spark, he's probably pissed at the world. And this guy's showing everybody that he is, because he's putting great at-bats together. The lineup yesterday, I know JD Martinez was out sick or whatever he was out with today. I understand that. But the lineup yesterday, like Hector just said, was beautiful. Nimmo, JD, Mark Vientos. I'm signing up for that 3-4-5 with this current personnel all day long. But the other thing I wanted to bring up is, how many times have I said that Brandon Nimmo is an asset, whether he's hitting the baseball or not? We need more Nimmos on this team, and that needs to translate to Francisco Lindor 100%. That is the player who it needs to translate to, because guess what? Screw the average. I don't even care about the batting average anymore. What is his on-base percentage? Is he getting on base or not? That's just the bottom line. And the fact of the matter is that Francisco Lindor's OBP is the second worst of all the guys that were in the lineup today outside of Omar Narvaez. He's only ahead of Omar Narvaez. And that simply, when he was batting third, that cannot be the case. That can't be the case, man. How do you impact this team? How do you impact this game when you're not hitting the baseball? Pete Alonso also struggles with this as well, because when he's not hitting, he's not working counts, he's not seeing the ball well. It's about selective aggression and pitch recognition. And when Pete Alonso is not seeing the ball well, which he is over the last couple of days, maybe last 5-6 days, whatever, he's actually hitting the ball pretty well. He's taking competent at bats. But when he's not, it's all bets are off. He's chasing that outside slider. He's chasing out of the zone consistently. Francisco Lindor, same thing. Selective aggression seems to be a problem. So, and that's what Brandon Nimmo excels at. When Brandon Nimmo is at the top of his game, yeah, he'll miss a middle pitch and foul it back on one that he should have absolutely crushed. But you guess what? When you throw that inside slider to him that breaks right at his knees, he's not swinging at it more oftentimes than not, because he knows how to lay off that pitch, and he'll take the base on balls when they give it to him, because he values that. And anybody who tries to tell me that Brandon Nimmo's OBP is going to dip in the 3 spot, I don't buy it, because the approach doesn't change. His approach is consistent. And that's why he should be in the middle of the order, because his approach doesn't change. People, this is a very common misconception here. I know I'm kind of just ranting on and on and on, and I'm sorry, but a lot of people have this misconception that hitters' approaches are supposed to automatically change drastically. Now, they might change from situation to situation, depending on runners in scoring position, et cetera, but the overall pitches that you are looking for in your wheelhouse and the selective aggression that you have to have does not change just because you go from the leadoff spot to the 3 hole. So Brandon Nimmo is that perfect versatile bat for that 3 hole. That's why I love it. This team needs more Brandon Nimmos in the lineup. Now, with that being said, can this core figure it out this season? Like Hayden said, it's anybody's guess, because this team seems to be inconsistent. They go through spurts, and that's exactly what the Mets need to mitigate. What did we say earlier on this season? Assessing 2023, what did the Mets have to improve? We said it all offseason, Rob, and all of our offseason content. We said that this team, slumps are inevitable. That's a part of baseball. You're never going to ever get rid of those. Slumps will happen. How do you get yourself out of that funk quicker than you got into it? Yeah. That's what this team, because when shit starts to hit the fan, I don't believe in this team at all. They don't have that mindset to go out there and change what's not working. They're going to take 13, 14 games to do it, as opposed to just 4 or 5 and snap right back into it. That's why when they were talking about JD Martinez on that broadcast and all the stuff that he does pregame, the tripod setup, talking to Pete Alonso, that's a professional hitter. And if I could boot Chavez today and make JD Martinez the player hitting coach, I would do it right now. I'm sorry, I would do it right now. That's all I'll leave you with.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah, and you know, absolutely, because of the fact that like you hope that JD Martinez like obsession with all types of things that he does with hitting and checking the videos and the tripod and everything he does before at bats, after at bats, in batting practice, on an off day, whatever. You hope it translates to guys like Pete Alonso and, you know, not really Lindor and Nimmo, but mostly Pete Alonso, because I think Pete Alonso falls into a trap, like Chris said, that when Pete Alonso's not going well, he doesn't work a count. Right? He'll swing at 3 pitches in a row in the same spot. He will not adjust in at bat when he's struggling. And that's why me and Chris, when we talked about it in the pre and post about Francisco Lindor in a leadoff spot, where it wasn't the hits. Yes, you want to see him get hits, but it wasn't just the hits that we were excited about. We were excited with Lindor taking more pitches, working the count. That was good to see from Francisco Lindor, who does not do that in the 3 spot. And he's changing his approach because he knows he has to get on base a little bit more. He knows that it's not do or die in the 3 hole, getting that runner in. He just has to do his job, is increasing his on base, increasing that average a little bit more, and putting better at bats together is going to hopefully get him to that point. And yeah, you're right. We need 9 Brandon Nimmos. Like, honestly, like, look, I was a big critic of Brandon Nimmo. I will say that for the last couple of seasons, I thought the Mets were absolutely insane giving him that type of contract. I agree. Listen, but you know what? We paid him as a center fielder, and now he's a left fielder, right? But that's irrelevant because he's been our best player. And I will
Yes, he has.
I will take the bullet on that because of the fact that when I'm wrong, I'll say it. I have no problem with that, right? I don't hide, and stop doing videos and live streams because I feel like I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, I'll call myself out. And you know what? You guys can call me out as well because you guys have no problem doing that as well. And that's why we're here, right? Because it's important because of the fact if you can't tell yourself, you can't say that you're wrong, you can't be doing this. You know what I'm saying? Because we say a lot of shit all day, every day, and we're going to be right sometimes, we're going to be wrong sometimes. And I'm wrong about Brandon Nimmo. And I'm pleasantly excited that I'm wrong because I don't want him to suck just to make me feel better and make myself right. I'd rather be really fucking wrong and have Nimmo be our best player and bring us to the promised land, and I'll feel like a fucking fool because you know what? I'll still buy that World Championship, shirt if I want to, if Nimmo, hits a game-winning home run in the World Series, right? It is what it is. He's our left fielder now, and he's our best player. Yeah, Chris.
Can I say something real quick? Because just before I forget, great rant by you, epic rant. I think that reinforces the idea of team on the front of your chest before the player on the back of your chest, right? I think that's, or the back of your back, whatever, however you want to say it. It's late, I'm sorry. One thing about that, and when I said that hitters don't change their approaches from wherever they're hitting in the lineup, that is in terms of the selective aggression and the pitch recognition aspect. Like the selective aggression and the swings that you are going to take on certain pitches doesn't change. You know why it's good to get Lindor out of the 3 spot as opposed to the leadoff spot, and it's good to get him in the leadoff spot because guess what? More often than not, this is a general synopsis, this is generally speaking, because this is the major leagues and pitchers generally have command of more than one pitch, but generally teams don't want to walk the leadoff hitter. So the leadoff hitter is going to see more fastballs by virtue of the trade. And that's where I think Lindor can take more advantage of because it's very hard if you're struggling in the batter's box to worry about the fastball, let alone the slider, changeup, curveball, whatever else the other pitchers got. So that's what I wanted to say. That's just my follow-up.
No, and I'm glad you followed up with that because I was gonna say I'm not sure if I agree on them not changing their approach because even Brandon Nimmo has talked about how if he was dropped in the lineup, there would be times where he would take more chances. He might be a little bit more aggressive. You know what I'm saying? So they do change a little bit, but I do agree with you 1,000% that it won't affect his on base percentage. I think he'll still be getting on base because he's still a good hitter. He's still a good hitter. And good hitters want to have good at-bats no matter what. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, he'll take his chances in the RBI spot or whatever the case may be. But I think for the most part, he'll remain the same as far as those numbers. But I think the guy, and you touched on it, that is going to help the most because of the fastballs, especially with Pete Alonso hitting behind him. And if Brandon Nimmo does become more of that RBI guy now and gets known more for that RBI guy now, even hitting in the 3 spot, you know what I'm saying? And doesn't succumb to whatever pressures that may bring, that's gonna help Lindor even more. But I wanted share something with you guys that I found interesting, right? Because like I said, we talk about all these things, and people think, oh, Hector, you don't care about the numbers because a lot of times I'm like, don't give me this numbers crap. Like I don't watch the games because there's sometimes people that just it looks like they only read box scores, they only read the numbers, and they don't watch the game. But I went back to look at a few things because I was wondering how these guys are doing in wins and losses. And I found this interesting, guys. And like I said before, nobody impacts, I think, more wins and losses than Francisco Lindor. And the difference in how he performs is humongous, right? So in wins, Francisco Lindor has a 313 batting average. I know who cares about batting average, Hector. 313 batting average, 374 on base, 575 slugging for 949 OPS, right? In losses, Francisco Lindor, 091 batting average, 175 on base percentage, 172 slugging for 346 OPS. Now, and I'm not going to bore you guys with all this stuff. Look at Pete Alonso. Pete Alonso in wins, look at this, in wins, a 187 batting average, 287 on base percentage, 387 slugging, 674 OPS. In
Hector,
losses,
can I just say one thing? I
Sure.
think David Stearns emailed you that information because that's why he hasn't really signed them yet.
but then look at this. In losses, Pete Alonso, 263 batting average, 324 on base percentage, 505 slugging for 829 OPS. So he actually performs better in losses than he does in wins.
So
I
stop
don't know what
blaming
that
Lindor for
means.
everything, Mets fans. All right, damn.
Was that?
I said stop blaming Lindor for everything.
No, I'm
Fans.
just saying.
Not you. I'm talking about the crazy Met fans on X that continue to kill Lindor.
To me, that shows how much his
I'm sorry.
performance impacts wins more
Yeah.
than, you know what I'm saying? Because look, even with Pete Alonso not having great numbers, you know, I mean, obviously the same amount of games, they each started 19 games out of the 20 wins. You know?
Why is that though? Like those stats, it's not boring stats. Those are great stats. Like, why is that though? Like Pete Alonso doesn't impact the game for the Mets. Like, I mean, honestly, I've said that for a while, and I didn't even know.
It feels like we've seen him hit big hits, right? I don't know.
No. I'm sorry. I don't believe that one bit. Honest to God, Hector, I said this for a while. I did not know those stats. I'm 100% being honest with you guys. I don't feel like Pete Alonso impacts a game more than probably even, I don't feel like he impacts the game enough for being a guy that's supposed to be the best player on the team and the face of the franchise. That's just my opinion. And those stats kind of, bring that out. And, these are 2024 stats, right?
Yeah, 2024.
I would love to look at 2023 and 2022.
Oh, I was just about to do that. 2023. Yeah. As we speak, I'll whatever stands out, I'll bring it up.
Chris, Hayden, go ahead. Bring it. Whatever you guys want to talk about right now. If you want to bring it.
I mean, I agree. I mean, I agree with that. And I'm starting to come to the realization, right, that like Pete might just not be that 1A type guy that you need on a championship winning team. And so like it is what it is. And if that's what the conclusion that we're coming to here is, and that's what the organization is thinking about, then you can better believe that the contract one was already given out. Whoever side you believe, whether it's the Mets or Andy Martino, whoever's reporting it versus Pete Alonso's word, whatever. But there's conversations that are going to need to be had. And in what I've seen last year, this year, even early on, is that, you know what? Pete Alonso, I don't know. I thought he impacted the game a lot. And I still think he does to a degree, but definitely not as much as like Hector said of Francisco Lindor for sure. Like when he's hitting the baseball and getting on base and doing everything that needs to be done, he's impacting the game a little bit more. And it just makes me realize, and it makes you open up your eyes. Now, listen, I'm going to just say this right now. Is everything on this lineup not succeeding? Is this team losing all because of Pete? I'm going to be the first one to go and just say, no, it's not. Absolutely not. But I think, Rob, I can understand where you're coming from your perspective too, in terms of the lack of, or the differences of narratives that Mets fans hold. And I think that you're fighting a decent fight in that regard, but you're gonna keep saying it to the cows come home, and guess what? People are just not gonna want to listen to you. So I'm gonna let you tackle that issue within itself. But nonetheless, this discourse is cool though, because you know what? The Mets are on the brink of having to make a decision and deciding whether or not they're going to extend or trade probably what we think is one of the best players to come up to the Mets organization since whoever you want to say, right? Like in the last at least 7, 8 years, I think that would be the case, right? I don't know. This is interesting to me. This is like real discourse that is going to have an impact. And this is not only what we're talking about, this is what David Stearns is talking about with Steve Cohen. And this is what David Stearns is looking at. Now, I'm sure David Stearns is looking at a little bit more than just batting average, right? These are great stats right now to look at. I'm sure David Stearns has a whole analytical department looking at spray charts, XYZ, WOBA, whatever the hell stats are out there now in the advanced stat category. I'm starting to try to get like a little bit more well-versed in those, but they're looking at those and looking at what Pete does well in what situations, because that's important as well. And, they're going to have to come to a decision. And it's either going to bite them because Pete Alonso is going to go out elsewhere and be great for somebody, or we're going to look back and say, wow, that was the smartest thing the Mets could have done because now they can allocate all that money elsewhere to this team and make them better in 2025. That's what it's going to come down to. So it's great that we're getting ahead of it here on May 19th. That's all I'll say.
I have the 2023 numbers for you guys, but before, real quick, Carlos just made me think about something, right? And he, I think he has a point. Like, and we've talked about this, everybody, because of the analytics and all of the advanced stats and all of that stuff, the rest of Major League Baseball does not value Pete Alonso as much as
I said that before.
Right? And that's what I'm saying. We've all said it, right? As much as Mets fans do, right? I don't even think the front office values him as much. The Mets front office values him as much as Mets fans do, right? Do you guys think that because of this, there's there could be a chance that, because like Carlos said, we're not gonna get the package that we might expect for him if we trade him. So you think this maybe forces them to hold on to him and not trade him?
Well, that's a different conversation because you only need one desperate team that needs a big bat to blow you out of the water with a deal. So I think that part's irrelevant. The contract is probably more of a conversation because you only need one team to be stupid enough to give you a crazy package back for Pete Alonso who needs a bat. I think it's more about the contract and what teams really
That's
see
what
him
I was gonna
in
say.
the future. Contract-wise, Hayden, get Hayden. You can step in.
Yeah, I agree with that, Rob. I think it's going to be more the years for Pete.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the AAV is going to be a whole big factor of it. I think it is going to be more the years. Alonso said, rumored that he wants this 9-year deal.
Nobody's giving him
I
that.
don't know who's going to be on crack to do that, but this dude is going to age. And I get it. It's one thing if you give him 7. It's one thing if you give him 6. He's very unathletic. He's going to age horribly, even if you turn him into a DH still. Listen, if the Mets bite the bullet and they get desperate and give him whoever 8-year deal, 9-year deal, listen, if you can get 4, 5, of those years, I'd be happy. Let's be realistic. Nimmo's not going to be this for the next 7 years. Lindor, you think he'll be an elite shortstop year 11 in that contract? Heck no. Not even year 9 probably. So every player who has that contract, look at Judge, look at Yankees are probably going to get sold on a mega million deal. That's how baseball is. So my attitude is if the Mets could meet in the middle and get 8, I wouldn't be against it, but it's going to be more than the contract than the results.
Well, what concerns me is if that extension numbers are true that Pete turned down, 7 years at what was it, 158? If I'm not mistaken, I think that was it.
Yeah, that was like a 22. Was that like 22?
22, 23 or something like that. But
25.
What concerns me is that they started an extension with 7 years, $158 million. That tells me that they're probably willing to go to 8, maybe 9 years to get it done if it comes to that. Because you don't
supposedly.
Yeah, if it's true, and they started with 7 years, I mean, as a first offer, or at least as we know is the first offer, that tells me that they're willing to do it if necessary. But again, and who brought that? Hector brought it up. Around the league doesn't think, Met fans think of Pete Alonso as a freaking god. Like,
He's not very well liked.
Dickey's one of the best players in baseball. Guys, reality check.
Only some of us.
He's not. If he's top 15, that's being generous, guys. I'm sorry. Met fans, you might kill me after this stream, and I might get 10 emails like I do normally from people hating me. Listen, guys, reality check. Pete Alonso is probably not a top 15 player, maybe not even top 20. And you know what? That pains me because
reality check.
I want him 15. To be. I want him to be a career Met. I want him to be the first career Met in franchise history.
But Nimmo, at least.
Yeah, true. But then Nimmo will probably get traded in the year 6, so he probably won't be a career Met. But I want Pete Alonso to be a career Met in first time in franchise history. I want that. I want to cherish that type of moment. We don't have that. Even Tom Seaver got traded. So guess what, guys? Pete Alonso can get traded too. Reality check, guys. Once again, sorry, I apologize for that.
Man, shout out to my guy Frank, who says you only trade Pete Alonso if you get Bob Gibson or Sandy Koufax. I hear you, Frank, but I don't think that's gonna be the case. And also shout out to my guy EB, man, for showing support, bro. And EB, you reminded me of something I was kind of trying to ignore, right? Because it's kind of neutral, and everybody's giving him props for it. But man, my guy Hayden with this different team hat every fucking week. But
I actually only wear teams that are above 500.
Listen, I told you the day you come in here with a Yankee hat, either you go or I go from the stream that night. That's not gonna happen.
He won't do that. I don't think he'll do that. I don't think he'll do that.
But look, guys, real quick, I'm not gonna go too as long on it. But again, last year in wins, actually, Pete Alonso a 1.022 OPS. Lindor 910. In losses, Lindor 703. Pete Alonso 634. So Pete actually performed over. I don't want to go through all the numbers, but believe me, he performed actually better last year in wins than Lindor by a small margin.
So you're saying trade Pete Alonso, right?
Say again?
That means you're saying trade Pete Alonso, right?
I mean, listen, I think it may not matter what I say. Eventually, that may be.
Come on, you're in the front office. You get access to the front office. Don't play with us, man.
To only at a certain level, though. There's some things that I don't have clearance on. You know what I'm saying?
You don't got top level clearance. You got mid level.
No.
You can only get to the over section. I know.
Very low level.
I get it, Chris.
No, I'm just gonna say that first of all, before we say anything more. We appreciate everyone being in here, whether you're on X or over on YouTube. Whether you're on X on YouTube, we appreciate you. If you're on X, come over to the YouTube channels. It's streaming to multiple YouTube channels. Subscribe to the channel because we're going to be doing this a lot more frequently, and hit the thumbs up because hitting the thumbs up definitely helps us in terms of just getting our names out there in this Roundtable podcast, getting our names out there in the YouTube space. But no, I mean, that's what I was like kind of saying, Hector, when you pointed out the numbers and wins and losses, the first set of numbers with Pete Alonso. I was like, it could be a trend down, but I know in years prior, like, I know for a fact that Pete Alonso still impacts wins. You can't sit here and tell me that Pete Alonso doesn't impact wins. And I know you guys are not trying to say that, but I think that the general tone of the conversation is trying to allude to that. And I don't want to get anybody in the chat like confused, and that's what we're trying to say, because that's not a fact. What it boils down to me, before we head into the last topic here, because I know we got to bounce here. We're about an hour and a half into the stream. We do have a couple of names to talk about here as well that got promoted today. What I was going to say was, no, I lost my train of thought now. Damn. I can't believe that. I'm pulling an Ibby now. And he's always losing his train of thought.
Oh, no, but real quick, as you gain your train of thought, and let me make it clear. My idea, whatever point in that little exercise wasn't to show that Pete Alonso doesn't impact winning. I'm not saying that you said that, Chris. I just want to make sure for everybody. It wasn't to say that Peter.
I said that.
It was to show how much we need Francisco Lindor to come through. And it's not to knock Francisco Lindor. It's to say is that he is so good that he impacts winning so much. You know what I'm saying? And we need him to perform better, man, in order for this team to be better. Because I keep saying that again and again and again. Carlos, I know that maybe my expectations are a little bit crazy. But as long as I have these guys on my team, a guy that you, amongst others, have told me is one of the best shortstops in the game, right? We have the best power hitter in the game, right? We have a former batting champ and blah, 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 blah. I expect to win ball games. I don't give a damn
I
what the
agree.
front office did. I expect to win ball games with these guys. You bring me JD Martinez, right? Everybody wanted JD Martinez. We need a bat, we need protection. Well, let's go. Win some games. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that's why I look at this stuff, and that's why I want Francisco Lindor to do better. I want Edwin Diaz to figure it out. I want Peter Alonso to be more consistent. You know what I'm saying? And so on and so forth.
The train of thought that I was going to before I conveniently forgot was just the simple question is do you believe in the core or do you not believe in the core? We said in the post game. Like that's that, like you just said it. All the accolades that this team has and this core has. Batting champion, one of the best power hitters in the game. You got Brandon Nimmo, who's very versatile. You got Francisco Lindor, who's thought of as one of the best shortstops in the game from both sides of the glove, the infield, and the plate. Like that should translate more often than not to more wins than what we're seeing here, Hector, right? You would think. And it hasn't yet. So that's what I'm saying. Like, do you believe in the core? Or do you not believe in the core? And right now, sunk costs at this point, we can estimate that Lindor and Brandon Nimmo and Edwin Diaz right now are sunk costs because they got their money. The Mets committed to that core and hopes to commit to it even further with Pete Alonso in hopes of building a winner hasn't translated. They can either double down and triple down on their decisions so far by extending Pete Alonso and keeping him around, or you talk about sunk costs because we know who our owner is Steve Cohen. They can triple down on it, or they can just let bygones be bygones and try to just pivot and build around Brandon Nimmo and Francisco Lindor with like whatever you may want. But like, I think someone
About
said in the
Brandon
chat
Nimmo
here
and
earlier.
Francisco Alvarez.
Yeah, exactly too.
True.
Someone said in the chat here earlier is that I don't think Pete Alonso can be a guy. He can be a great hitter in a championship caliber lineup. I forgot who said. I think it was Junior or something like that. But he's not going to be that 1A guy, and that's exactly what I keep saying stream after stream. And I'm starting to come around to that realization because we would have already seen it already. We would in 2022, we would have seen it instead of rolling over and dying. And I hate to bring that up because it was a great season through and through, but I'm not sure we're going to be seeing that type of season again in the near future with the way things are going right now at this core. So I agree. There's a lot of tough decisions to be made, and there's not a one size fits all, as is everything in life, especially in sports right now, New York sports. But man, this is just like a real, and we knew this when David Stearns came in. Like he's not going to have an easy time at all. And this is what he gets paid the big bucks to do, man. I don't envy his position at all.
Doesn't it feel like we ask this question every week? Do you believe in the core?
That's the problem.
Yeah, that's a problem. I can't wait till we're not asking that question anymore. And then, listen, the honest truth is it probably won't be till maybe next year, maybe the year after that. I know my boy Carlos thinks we're gonna flip the switch, and next year we're just gonna go out there and win the NL East and go all the way. We'll see about that. But I just want to stop talking about this core. Stop making us talk about you guys, man. Yeah, produce.
Right. Yes. God, I miss Sandy Alderson, so I can talk about him all the time.
Oh,
all right, guys. So final topic of the day. The Mets made two promotions that could be a little bit of an eye-opening look to the future, or at least the very, very near future. Chris, you brought that up in the group chat. The Mets promoted Nolan McLean to Double-A Binghamton. In High-A Brooklyn, he had a 2.57 ERA in 28 innings, and an 801 OPS in High-A Brooklyn 24 games. So he's that two-way player that a lot of people are talking about. He's been killing it in High-A Brooklyn. Now he's going to be doing it at one of the best levels in minor leagues in Double-A right now, where mostly all the top prospects make that jump from Double-A to the majors. So he's going to be facing the best of the best in the minors. So we'll see how he performs there. And the Mets also promoted Blade Tidwell, another top prospect pitcher, to AAA Syracuse with his 2.41 ERA with 44 strikeouts with Double-A Binghamton. which is a sign where when you get promoted to AAA nowadays in baseball, it's a foregone conclusion that you're probably going to be in the majors very, very shortly. Because when you do it in AA, that's all the front office needs to see. Because AA is where it matters now. AAA is just a bunch of guys that are trying to stay in the league. So if anybody wants to jump in on these two guys, please do chat, and you can say your final thoughts during that process as well.
Blade Tidwell is a guy. Sorry, Hector, not to cut you off, but I just need to. I got so excited when I saw the news on Blade Tidwell because this is a guy I've been talking about ever since he got into this Mets organization. Was an absolute stud over in Tennessee. He's got electric stuff, and like you said, he's been dominating that AA level. I could not be more ecstatic, especially when we see a guy like Christian Scott already making his debut and Mike Vasil is lagging behind. We were kind of wondering who that guy is going to be behind Mike Vasil to maybe either push him up and just like force their hand to bring Mike Vasil up or just leapfrog him into the major league. So it looks like Blade Tidwell very well might be that guy. He's got electric stuff. And that McLean guy, man, I mean, a lot of people are calling him Ohtani 2.0. Obviously, we're not getting that far, but like it's kind of a fun comparison, right? Because not many people do this successfully at the major league level. So see if it translates. I believe he just hit a bomb today as well after during the game, and then he got promoted right after that. So I was talking with Ernest Dove. Shout out Ernest. I'm not sure if you're tuning in right now. I know you tweeted this stream over on the X. I've had you on my YouTube channel. Great Mets coverage down in the minor leagues as well. Great guy. If you don't subscribe to Ernest Dove's YouTube channel, make sure you do so as well. Follow him on X, all that good stuff. But I was talking with him a little bit of a back and forth about Nolan McLean and just like what sort of strengths he has, like what is the pitching looking like, and basically 96, 97 mile per hour fastball. The command's lacking, but the tool set is there. The tool set is there, and he's hitting bombs, dude. This guy's hitting bombs. The exit velo's there. He's hitting to all fields. He's not only hitting bombs to the pull side, he has raw power to hit bombs to the opposite field that not many guys in his league, let's be honest, have. Like Mark Vientos has it. Pete Alonso has it. JD Martinez probably has it, but not many guys consistently hit opposite field home runs. So very excited about these two guys. And I said it in our group chat, like, because like this is a great point. David Stearns has not hesitated with these promotions here so far very early on. He has not hesitated. And we've seen the Mets be hesitant in years prior about promotions. And it seems like they sort of just linger on with them. David Stearns here early this season has not hesitated. And is that a sign of like what's to come? Are they already thinking about this deadline coming up? Like, is that like, you know what I mean? It doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense to me if they weren't already thinking about the deadline, but I'm just going to just leave you all with that. Just ponder about that. We'll probably talk about that here in the next couple of weeks as well if we see any more call-ups. But yeah, man, exciting times. Glad to see these guys rising through the ranks. Those two names are absolute studs. Been high on Blade Tidwell. Keep an eye on him, especially in AAA. Like you said, like we'll be in the MLB level very, very soon because we all know AAA is not that level anymore. Like it's not thought to be that premier level like AA is. So other than that, final thoughts. Let's go Mets. Great win today. Build on it. Ugly series loss. All we can do is look forward. Players looking forward. Us as fans, obviously, we're sitting here talking about it like crazy people here at 10:45 p.m. on a Sunday night before the work week starts up for me. Nonetheless, hit the thumbs up. Keep commenting. We appreciate the comments in general, but all it takes is one run. One run, one winning streak. That's all it takes. And I began the stream with that, and I'm gonna end it. All it takes is one streak. And that is my positive side coming back out again, because I felt like I've been a little overly negative in terms of what I usually produce as content on my channel. But like I said, we talk objectively. If this team, like you said, Hector, is not performing well, we're gonna call it out. We're not going to sugarcoat things because we can't lie to the people. The people are watching it for themselves. You know what I mean? We're just here to reinforce what we see on the screen. So shout out to everybody. Subscribe to the channel. Hit that thumbs up. And Rangers content, Blue Shirts banner post games coming up this week. Don't miss it. They've been on fire recently. Don't miss out. Appreciate y'all being here.
Yes, sir. And Nolan McLean, he's got a beautiful swing. Like, I mean, the ball jumps off his bat. I was watching a couple of videos of him because I'm not gonna lie, I haven't seen him a lot, but I watched a couple of highlight video, and the ball just jumps off his bat, and it's nice to see. And maybe he is one of those guys that we can get him to the majors rather quickly as a two-way star. And Tidwell, he's gonna be up during this season. I have that feeling he's gonna be up in the next month or two, helping this rotation out. Hector, thoughts on the promotions from these two guys, and your final thoughts?
Yeah, before I go on the promotions, it's funny, Chris, right? Because um as much as people try to paint me as negative on X sometimes, right? I have a lot of people who come at me, whether it be DMs, whether it be on my post, and they're like, dude, what happened to you? Why are you so positive? What happened to the Hector that we're used to calling the radio? And da 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 da. And like, because I'm trying, whatever. Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to give this team a break, you know what I'm saying? And I'm trying not to be negative. I'm not gonna lie, I'm trying not to be negative. But I get to the point where you know what? I just gotta keep being myself and keep keeping it real. And whatever it is, it is. But only the team has control of that, man. Only the team has control of that. I'll be honest with you guys, man. As far as the call-ups, you guys know me. I'm not a big prospect guy until we see them, right? And I mean until we start seeing them, whether it be a spring training invite, whether it be a call-up, whatever the case may be. You start seeing them at the AAA level. I know AAA doesn't mean as much anymore, but you start seeing them, Binghamton now and stuff like that. Now they show the game, so you see them a lot more. Now, as far as the call-ups, I don't know if I'm going to read into it as much as Chris and think that is, they're looking forward towards the trade deadline or anything like that. But because when you read before the season and the outlook and projections for a lot of these guys, a guy like Tidwell is projected to possibly come up to the majors in 2024, right? So I'm not surprised so much when he gets called up. That means he's doing his job and he's just following the progression that is kind of expected of him. Now, when I see a guy like that, dude McLean start moving up, now that's something that catches my attention, right? Because although you read about him, it's not, he's a project pretty much. He's an Otani project. Let's see if we can find someone here who can do it. So that piques my interest a little bit. Got to now start following a little bit more what he's doing. And you've been hearing about him. You've been hearing about this McLean guy who does both ways, whatever the case may be. So yeah, it's exciting. And it's exciting because we have guys that are producing. Running out of battery. We have guys that are producing at the lower levels. So that's always going to be exciting, right? Now, like I said, I'm running out of battery, so I better hurry up here. As far as my closing thoughts, not much. You guys know in my closing thoughts, I usually like to shout out the chat because the way my thing is set up, if I stream on X, I can't comment in the chat. So I apologize to everybody if you shouted me out, whatever the case may be. I appreciate every single one of you. Like the guy said, we appreciate all the support tonight. So shout out to you guys. But I was able to take a couple of notes. First off, I want to shout out again my guy EB. As a wannabe, as an unofficial content creator, as a whatever you want to call me, for someone like you to be in here and giving us support, I appreciate that. I know these guys do too. And these guys are more official than me, so you guys are all on the same level, but I appreciate it. I don't know how you guys feel, but Anthony brought up earlier in his comments that Pete Alonso should stay away from the home run derby. It's never bothered me that he performed in the home run derby. I don't know how you guys have felt about that. We don't have to get into it too much. Selfish, you say, huh, Rob? But I don't know. Maybe this year, yeah. No home run derby, my guy. The other one, I forget what his first name, but something diarrhea talked about that. Joe Sherman reported that JD and P will be put up on the trade block come the trade deadline. How can he report that? That may be his opinion. That may be his opinion. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think he got that officially from the Mets. Like, because the way he said it was like, like the Mets. The Mets.
But that's not news though, because
exactly. That's just. But we can all speculate that. That's what I'm trying to say.
If the Mets are out of it at the deadline, yes,
everybody should be available.
Like, that's not news. Joel Sherman, great job. I mean, I could have done that.
No. And again, I think that may have been his opinion, but that's like everybody's opinion. Like, why are you even talking about that right now? Except for clicks. And then going out, I said I was going to introduce a new segment. This is fodder. This is ammunition for the guys that say that I hate Lindor. But I don't know about you guys. It is something that he's gotten props for. And I saw a clip today, and it was, I guess, from yesterday, I think it was, but I saw it this morning. He's signing autographs, and a gentleman says, "You missed me." And he says, "What do you mean I missed you? You didn't ask. You didn't say please." And we see him do this with the kids all the time. And people have applauded him for this, especially with kids. Oh, he's teaching the kids. Who the hell are you to teach any kids manners? You're nobody's kids' parents.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I find it actually a little bit arrogant that he does it. The way that he was doing it in the clip that I saw, it seemed arrogant with an attitude. And it's like, yo, dude, do you understand that most of the time I've been in that situation? As much crap as I come here and talk, you get around these guys, you're in awe. You know what I'm saying? You don't even know what to say. So you might just put your thing on, Francisco, please, Francisco, here, please. You know what I'm saying? And this dude all the time with it, you got to say please. Say, like, come on, dude. Come on, man. Maybe if you were a little nicer to the fans, you will have better karma, more good polarity around you. Like I was screaming at you one day when I was outside the players, and I was saying, yo, Francisco, come out here and sign for the fans. You hit a home run tomorrow, joking around. But yo, come on, dude. Come on. Look at Brandon Nimmo. I'm sorry, Rob. Look at Brandon Nimmo and the way that he treats people. Yeah. And he doesn't tell anybody, yo, please, say that. He's gracious with his time. Brandon Nimmo stops every single time after games and signs for every single person out there. He'll take pictures. He'll converse with you and everything. And he's not, you know what I'm saying? And everybody's so appreciative. Thank you, Nimmo. Thank you, this, without him having to demand it. Now, having said that, we're going to Cleveland. Go out there and figure it out, bro, in your former home. Take off and make me shut the hell up and turn the season around. Let's go, Mets. Like my man Chris said, we never give up. We gonna come here and talk shit. I'm the number one shit talker, but you always gotta fucking believe. Let's fucking go.
Absolutely. And you know what? When I was in Miami last year on the opening series, when the Mets played Miami, Lindor did do exactly that in Miami as well with a lot of the fans and a lot of the kids as well. He had that arrogance to him and told kids to say please. So I was right there when he was signing autographs.
Yeah, it's been going on for a while. You see it all the time.
And look,
I don't think Chris likes it. Chris is like, shut up with this stuff.
Everybody calls me the biggest Lindor supporter, but that's 100% true. Like I seen it firsthand, and that's not news to me because I've seen it firsthand in Miami last year during the opening series in Miami when I was there. So, you know, it's something that maybe it affects him on the field or not affects him on the field. Maybe it's karma or whatever. Yeah. But somebody in the chat says maybe he's having marital problems.
Yeah, I just saw that.
Field. Maybe. I don't know. Look, listen. The fact of the matter is
they just did a piece talking about this whole nice family. He's talking about she's the MVP and this and that.
I don't give a fuck. Like, I don't care. I don't care if you have the worst family situation or the best family situation. Your job when you get to the ballpark is to do your fucking job. They pay you to perform, right? I pay money to cable and tickets to Citi Field and go to games, travel across the country to see you guys win. I don't care about the personal situation. I don't care. I don't get after people and their families when they're doing bad. I go after the individual, the player, not the person off the field or their families. I won't do that. But I don't care. You have marital problems, take it out on the fucking ball when you're on the plate. How about that? Do that. Be mad at in the game. Right? Stop conversing with these fucking players that are on second base every fucking day. Right? Be mad. If you have family problems, I'm sorry. Life sucks. We've all had family problems, but we get up and go to fucking work every day, don't we? Do your fucking job on the field. That's all I have to say. That's my final thoughts. Everybody in the chat. I've had consistent 470 in the stream with X and YouTube. I think overall with all of our channels and on X, I think we're near 1,000 watching live right now. So that's insane. That's the biggest of the roundtable.
How you ain't tell me that before I start cursing and stuff, bro?
I just cursed 100 times.
There might be kids on here watching. Now, before you close this out, though, Rob, because my guy Diarrhea made a point. I don't think the dude was saying it in a rude way. Like I said, sometimes in a situation, the guy might have been like, you know, He's just hoping to get lucky. He's like, oh, Francisco just skipped me. That might have been where he got the guts to muster up. And yo, Junior, stop being a wise ass. Of course, if he's signs autograph doesn't mean that he's gonna be good, but you know what I mean, man. Good karma, brother. Treat people good, and the baseball guys will treat you good, man. Leave me alone.
Absolutely, guys. Chris, Hector, Hayden had to go. We appreciate all you guys hanging out with us and everybody in the chat as well. Mets Roundtable, another one in the books. The Mets got 3 games in Cleveland before they head home after the off day. 10-game road trip against West Coast teams, the Giants, Dodgers, and Diamondbacks. So let's get a series win on the road in Cleveland against a very good Cleveland team, and then we head home and figure out how to fucking hit at home against the West Coast teams. With that said, everybody have a great night. Let's go Mets. We'll see you next time on the next roundtable, whenever that may be. Maybe in a week, maybe in 6 days. Who knows? We pop up whenever we feel like it. With that said, have a great night, guys. Let's go Mets. Subscribe, like, and all that fun stuff. Have a great night, guys. Let's go Mets.
LFGM,
Y'all
baby.
later.